All right. Well, welcome to the hopefully the first of many. What are we going to call this? Sid? Two battle masters and a mic.
Pretty much. Two Battle Masters, one way. Oh no! No, you can't call it that. No,
You already fell for it.
oh god. No, it's just it's like just a little powwow. We're gonna be meeting up, talking about certain elements of battle gaming, how to bring your battle gaming up to the next level, whether it be understanding ways to learn incants, um, learning ways to kind of think smarter, not harder. But this will vary. You'll see episodes where we'll probably talk about how to work better with armor, how to work better with your teammates. Might do a drafting episode every now and again. Things are up in the air. It's not a very hard and fast kind of thing, but we'd love to have you guys here. If you guys leave any or like anything in the comments, we'll try to get to it when we can.
I do have the
Without
chat
further
up
ado,
so I can watch.
well, no, it's because since it's being recorded, it'll end up showing up on YouTube, and then the comments there will show. But if not, I would say look at Gen Chat, probably, if anybody else hops in.
Well, that's what I'm
Guys,
talking about. It's our Gen chat. I have that open, so
oh,
I'm
absolutely.
watching that closely for us. Plus, Leo's in there, of course.
Yeah. But yeah. Without further ado, I guess some small introductions for those of you who may not know us, or for those of you who are going to watch this later. I am Battlemaster Sid. I am
You should turn
one
on
of
your
the
camera.
Oh hell no! I ain't turning my camera on. Not a chance. Not tonight. Maybe another one. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm Battlemaster Sid. I have a Battlemaster. I will be a Battle Knight come August 22nd. I am also a Master Smith and a Walker in the Middle, so got a decent understanding of how battle gaming works, at least down here. Been playing the game for about 8 years. And my other friend over here, soon to be Battle Knight, Lyle Rachir.
Sorry for the mess behind me. There's lots of leather here, so like I don't have room to clean up right now. My history, I've been in this game for 10 years now. I've moved around a couple times within kingdoms before ending down here in Neverwinter, which we are now both a part of. I will be, as of today, I am only. Where's my calendar? Why is my calendar not pulling up? A week and 3 days. 4 days. A week and 4 days from getting my knight for Battle Knight. I am also a walker in the middle. My paragons are druid, archer, and assassin. Basically, my skill set relies with me and a bow, and my opponents not being in my face. Um, Best thing that I've learned, just my biggest tip for anybody: learn to watch your field.
Mm-hmm.
Just learn that field. Anyways, so we wanted to start off with what will hopefully be the first of a series here, talking about some abilities.
We're going to be going over some basics on
Ian,
battle gaming. Oh, sorry. Wait, you all right? Lyle, you
I'm
there?
fine. My son's just being he's in the back. I gotta step away for just a second.
Take your time. So we do have some of our friends in here. Those who are up and coming battle gamers. We have Zianuma, wonderful wizard out of Merc Bottom. We have Jay and Hugo from Darkwater also joining us, as well as our wonderful healer and bard main and paragon Sogaleo Galacta. So welcome everybody. So we're going to go over some basic stuff first before we go any further. Most people who understand the idea behind casting, and this was kind of the big thing that we wanted to talk about first, is that yes, it is scary. The barrier of entry can be rather high because the ability to get into casting requires you to, one, learn the incantation, two, to remember to keep your feet set, and three, being able to do it in a really high tension situation where you have someone bearing down on you. It's not easy, and trust me, given some of the speed that exists in this game, and some even like particularly down here in Neverwinter, can be really hard to get spells off. So, the big thing we're going to be teaching today is one, learning your spells and being able to kind of like compartmentalize what spell is for the right job, and making sure that you have that incantation in your back pocket should you need it, whether that be heal or resurrect, to heat weapon, stun, icy blast, hold person, etc., etc., etc. But we'll get, just to make a very, very long explanation very, very short. This is going to be, I guess, a section speaking mostly on getting into casting, making sure that you can understand how to cast under pressure, and being able to make sure that you can keep those spell casts clean and clear. It's a big thing that will happen every now and again where like someone will like flub a spell and kind of mumble their way through it, and their opposition will say, hey, I didn't hear that. What the heck are you talking about? Or the Reeve might call that.
Just given a good example of something like that, at the last park day for Falling Fire, there was a player who tried to cast Hold Person. Now, for those of you in the chat who don't know what that incantation is, it is simply, I command thee stopped. I command thee stopped. I command thee stopped. Very simple. The player who was trying to cast it said, command thee stopped, command thee stopped, command thee stopped. The person he casted it upon, who did do the correct identifier, we'll get into that later what that means, but the person he casted it on said, really nice try, next time make sure to add I and I'll follow through. And then he stabbed him.
Yep. Classic. I command thee to be
hilarious.
Yeah. I mean,
Sir
hey,
Valis, who did the nice try, next time add the I, and then he stabbed him. It was great. It was fantastic.
Someone who definitely will punish you, just given how quick that gentleman is. But that's a good segue into that first lesson. Making sure that you remember everything that incantation states, because that will happen to you. You will have guys who have been playing this game long enough will tell you, hey, that's not the incantation. You said it incorrectly. I'm not taking it. And that's reasonable. Like, what's the most common one? Yeah, I command thee to be stopped from hold person has that. Back when heal, or I guess resurrect now, is it let the white light of healing that always gets cut off at the beginning of every stanza? Let the white light of healing stop their spilling blood. Let the white light of healing mend their bones. Mend the white light of healing close their wounds. Let the white light of healing restore their vigor. Or close their wounds, restore their vigor. The white light of healing is resurrected thee. But that portion there, and it's always going to be one of those things that you're going to want to make sure you remember the syllables and the relevant words. So we'll go, and I think Resurrect is the easiest one to learn this on because, hilariously enough, it's one of the ones that most people flub the most.
And back when heal was the same thing, it was the same. But that's also one of the most, I'm going to say, tongue twisters. Not that it really is a tongue twister, but it is one that does require you to have a lot of in-depth of what all's there. It's the most one of the most complicated because of all the lines to it.
So first things first is, Silver Tongue was the big issue with that as well. So first things first, when you're looking at these incants, so let's go to Resurrect. On my book, it shows up as page 43 on the Sappy rulebook.
Tell you what, if we want to do that, I will. I got an idea. I'm going to pull it up on a computer here.
The big thing that I want you guys to keep in mind, because I know Z, you don't play Wizard normally, or you've only been playing Wizard up until recently. Jay, you've been playing Bard primarily, and then Hugo's been playing Wizard. So I don't know how much experience any of y'all have with Res or Heal, but we're going to go over some quick ways to kind of learn these spells. And by proxy, it's not just extended to those. It'll be to just about every spell in this game. The first one, minimal experience, glad to learn. Perfect. So the big thing to keep in mind is especially with longer spells, so whether it be Resurrect, and the biggest one that most people need to learn, Charge. It's read it out, read out each stanza slowly, individually, then go through it again, then do the first two, stop, read the third one individually, slowly, then read the first three, stop, do it again, and repeat until you've got it all. That way, You got a good understanding of what exactly the incant is telling you, what exactly the incant is denoting, and then from there, being able to go out and say it quicker. So, for Resurrect, we'll just use Resurrect as an example here. Sword
I have
Cut,
it pulled up on my stream, by the way.
yes, for those of you who would like to watch, give a look on Lyle's screen or turn to page 43 in the Sappy rulebook. So, Sword Cut, Spear Stab, Mace Smash, Arrow Jab, all of which are distinctions as to what those weapons would do to a person. Real easy. Let the white light of healing descend upon thee. First stanza. Let the white light of healing stop thy spilling blood. Let the white light of healing mend thy bones. Let the white light of healing close thy wounds. Let the white light of healing restore thy vigor. The white light of healing hath resurrected thee. Easy mnemonic to keep in mind for resurrection. When treating a wound, the first thing you want to do is stop the bleeding, set the bones, close the wounds, restore them to health, and then there you go. It was more applicable for heal back in the day, but it works similarly for resurrect. So long as you've got that mnemonic and you're thinking about it like that, like, oh, how would one treat a wound? This makes it a lot easier for everybody. Charge, similar idea. Charge is a little bit more of a tongue, like not necessarily a tongue twister, but it's more just one you're going to have to generally learn. Yeah. I know it's descend on thee, right?
I wasn't
Descend
going to say
upon
it.
thee. I know. But it's one of those things that you're going to have to, you'll learn and you'll pick up as you go. But once you've got the basics, no, it's just because I was going off of just going off the brain, not off what's on my spell list normally. But the thing that you want to keep in mind is that once you've got the lines and you understand, insert Flurby or word here. I mean, yeah, but it still needs to maintain the amount of syllables and it still has to be legible as the same thing because otherwise someone will call you out on it. So
I will say
normally,
that if you make your casting harder upon yourself by like adding in upon instead of on, I personally would still take it if you get that off on me and just be like, hey, you made it harder. Good job.
you have any tips for when to breathe, especially when charging for longer durations?
I
Oh
do.
boy, yeah, uh,
I'll take that one actually.
yeah. Take it.
So when I do the charge incantation, I make sure I get a good breath in between each of my repetitions. I also make sure I'm singing. So when sorry now for anybody who's about to hear this, I do not have a good singing voice, but it helps me to do my charge incantation. So it's take a deep breath before I start because I want to make sure I have it. Out of battle, I pause to rest. I take this time to catch my breath. Return to me my fleeting power to aid me in my darkest hour. And then I breathe again. On most of them, I do it in between the repetitions. You might not have the lung capacity. I do recommend that you try to train for lung capacity, but that's a different conversation for a different day. What I would do then is just cut it down. Incantation does allow you to stop if you're breathing to continue. You can't sit there and stop and fight somebody for 10 seconds and then out of battle, press, pick back up. But if it's out of battle, I pause to rest. I take this time to catch my breath, return to me my fleeting power to return. And, as long as you're doing it where you're still in the same flow, that's okay. So there's a sweet spot that's going to be different for you, Hugel, compared to like me or Sid's, Leo, or anybody else. I do recommend trying to at least get that full repetition out, especially if you can do one full repetition of something like the Resurrect spell, where you can say that whole thing on one breath. Great, but it's also really hard to do when you're running around fighting, right? So find a point that works for you. For me, on that old heal spell slash the new Resurrect, I would stop arrow jab, breath, spilling blood, breath, close thy wounds, breath, resurrected thee, breath. Obviously, as you know, if you still look at the screen here, you can see where those lines actually here are, but I wasn't trying to sit there the whole time and do it. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't. If you can, I do recommend it, but again, you're going to find that sweet spot for you that is definitely not going to be the same as mine.
Yep. It's going to be one of those things that you're going to. Everyone gets their own. Everyone has their own like mnemonics to do it, and it's not everything fits every person. So one thing that you'll get, especially when you start getting real quick with it, it'll be like take a deep breath. Make sure you're coming from the diaphragm. You're not doing it from your throat. Leo was teaching me this a lot, and it is a very good tip for singers and such, and it also applies for your public speakers. It's out of a light pulse stress. It takes some time to catch my return to my fleeting party in my darkest hour. There you go. That's one. You can take a second, take a breath again, go at it again. Mind you, for charge especially, you want to make sure that you're in a safe position. You're not going to get dived on, and you have the ability to take it at your own pace. Some of those spells I know are charge 5, charge 10. It blows. I understand. It is a tremendous pain in the butt, but it's making sure that you are both safe, you're breathing correctly, you're speaking from your chest rather than up top, and then being able to clearly espouse those words loud enough that a reeve can hear you. Any reasonable person within an area could be able to hear you. And most key of all, you don't sound like you are spreading. Spreading, for those of you who don't come from a parley debate background, if you guys have ever looked on YouTube for those videos of like debaters speaking extremely quick, like talking like they have a time limit, that is what we call spreading in the parley debate community. So make sure that it is legible, but it is clear. Those are your big things. So now we understand how to say it. We understand certain mnemonics that you want to pick up and learn for your own spells, and also how you want to recite those spells. Now, big question. How do we want to learn to remember them? Lyle was talking about this last week. We were talking about it. Some people do it in the shower. So they'll go and they'll say it in the shower to themselves, and they'll kind of like work it through in their head. Some people will do it on their drive to work. Some people have learned to do this to music. There used to be a player at Tides who used to do the resin kit to Busta Rhymes music. And it is genuinely one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in my life, because that man was quicker than I was by a fair margin. And he's terrifying. Straight up. No questions asked.
When it comes
So,
to trying to learn your incantations, there really is no substitute for repetition.
yep.
Just like trying to throw a good punch, just like trying to throw that good J shot or a rap shot. It's not about being able to do it once. It's not about being able to do it twice. It's about being able to do it 5, 10, 15, 30, 40, 100 times correctly every time. And your brain will learn just from that muscle memory the same way. For those of you who are in the military, or maybe remember from PE, doing push-ups and stuff, you were told it's muscle memory, and at a certain point your body will just pick it up and run with it for you. And I absolutely I say my incantations when I'm learning them in the shower. Sometimes I say them in bed when I'm cuddling my wife. She does not like this.
For context, his wife is also a knight. Serpent knight, but still a knight nonetheless. She still gives him the look, probably. I can only assume. Does she?
Of course.
Absolutely. Understandable.
That's the standard look I get is
What the fuck is wrong with you? Look.
yeah.
Yeah,
That like it's when I do something special that I get a different look, but that's the standard one for me.
understandable. So we have an understanding now on charge, on how you want to be clear with it, you want to be loud. You also want to make sure that you're not blowing your vocal cords out. That happens a lot. Lord knows it's a running gag at this point in time, or in Neverwinter, that I can't go to events without blowing my voice out. It just happens. You can set your watch to it. Um, just one of those things that we want, that before you start getting really hardcore into casting, to be able to, just learn to be clear, learn to be concise, and then while you're clear and concise, also be able to do so with as little or with as much efficiency as humanly possible. So that means that while you're like stating your incants, you're not going too far and like straining yourself. You're not necessarily like doing all sorts of crazy stuff. It's more about, hey, how much energy am I expending in order to get this off? So,
One of the tips that I can give people is something I learned from Sir Bolt. For those that don't know, he is a battle knight. He's almost a sword knight. He is a crown knight. I think he's got a service belt too.
yep,
Dude's a very good all arounder, very good guy. Um, he's also a sprinter. Like this guy runs across the field and like nobody's business. And his best class, his first class that he Paragon, his best class to play is Wizard. And
wizard.
he does not take anything but a single short, which means he doesn't throw spell balls, he doesn't need them, he's verbal. So I know I've got a couple of wizards in here. What he does while he's doing his jogging and his sprinting is he says those incantations then too. So what he's practicing that muscle memory, like I mentioned, to help him to learn how to run while casting. And that is one of the reasons why he's a very scary fighter because one of many actually, but when it comes to him as a wizard, it's what can really scare you is the fact that he is running nonstop and he doesn't have to stop to cast because he'll just say ambulant because he's playing battle mage and then running up on you casting his whatever spell he needs.
Yep. Now, mind you, that casting at that level is insane. Some people are gifted for it. Bolt is built different in the most like absolute kindest like words. That man could literally do just about anything he wanted to in terms of like wizard play, and most people cannot fucking compete with it. But the idea here is that for those of you getting into it, yeah, running and stating your incantations as cadence, perfect. It helps you learn it. It helps you do it while you're running. It helps you kind of like build up
It
that
also
muscle memory.
it
Yep.
also simulates the battlefields because you're already probably a little out of breath.
Yep.
There's a lot of good to training that way if you can do it. Now, this is coming from a 300 plus pound man. I don't even run for cake, okay? I don't. I can't even act like I do the same. I don't. But this is one of the things that I know has worked very well and could do the same for you.
Yep. It'll be one of those things that however you choose to want to, yeah, that's what training can do. I mean, yeah, but it'll be one of those things that you'll sit here and you'll find your way into this. It's not there is no one size fits all. I don't think like there are other ways to do this. Some people do the singing, some people do the running, some people just sing it to themselves in the mirror or say it to themselves in the mirror before they go to bed at night. Lord knows there is no wrong answer. The big thing is that you find an answer that feels comfortable for you and you stick to it. Now, we understand now our spells. We know how to use them. We know more or less how to charge them. So the big question is, how do we want to know what spell we want to be using at any given moment? Now, easier said than done, because any number of infinite numbers of things can occur to you on a battlefield at any given moment, and you'll have any number of targets that'll be on you at any given time. So, how do we cut through an entire, like, infinite number of possibilities and we make it easy, simple? First thing you want to do is have a spell that you know that is on opener. That means it's no matter what's going to happen on first engagement, it's normally a spell you're going to want to keep on speed dial. So,
Icy
depending on your
blast.
huh?
Icy blast.
Icy Blast is a funny one. It depends sometimes on the game. It also depends on your local meta. It depends on what you're playing on. So this will depend a lot on your game knowledge. So you're going to have to hear, actually listen to the game runners and Reeves when the games are going on and when they're being explained. So you know exactly what that team might be thinking of. Is it like a really crazy King of the Hill game mode where you need to hold it for an extended period of time? I might expect someone to maybe have a golem or two, or a really, really like candied up warrior, or paladin or anti paladin. So, what's that first thing that I might want to consider? Dispel
Mhm.
magic. So, have that dispel on speed dial ready to go. What if they're playing a really monk heavy list that isn't really like they're not really running a lot of enchants, or you're not hearing a lot of enchants. Okay, then let me keep a heat weapon ready to go. So it's, mind you, again, infinite possibilities for an infinite number of situations.
As I was telling
You,
a player this past weekend who's learning how to reave, actually, one of the things that they need to learn is classes and what can those classes do. Now, I understand with archetypes, the class lines are a little bit more blurred than they used to be for some of us older folk who know this. But at the end of the day, if I see a purple sash, I know that guy's probably going to come at me with a lot of armor, and I need to counter that. If I see a golden sash, he's going to have decent armor, but he's also going to have immunities that I have to deal with. Or if he comes at me with that gray sash, I gotta hit him with a spell ball. I gotta bait the drop and hit him with something. I can't rely upon my icy blast with all three of those. Out of the three I mentioned, only two of them are going to be effective. And if it's a green sash, I probably am not going to get shit through. Again, that's coming from the druid. But there are things that you need to recognize are these other classes are capable of. Sure, you can tell exactly what weapons they're going to use because they're probably just holding them in their hand, right? Whether it's a polearm or great sword or sword and board, whatever. But their abilities of the class itself. Reasons why I'm more worried about a scout than a monk. I know if I go up with single sword, I can get a block out and hit with a spell ball. Problem is, when I go up against a scout, I might not be able to do that to them. They've probably got a shield. They're gonna bounce off the spell ball, and I'm done. And now they're gonna outfight me. If I try to throw my icy blast and they're prepared for me, they are already immune to my sorcery, which is what icy blast is for those of you that don't know. I know how to handle most of these classes. I know my counters. I know how they counter against me with the ones I play the most. You may not know that yourself, but I do recommend that while you're reading through this book and trying to figure out how your spells work, do yourself a favor and figure out which of your spells don't work against your opponent. And adding on to that, because it's very important as any caster, period for a caster, but it's important for every class, but all four caster classes absolutely have to learn this lesson. What works on my field and what works on your field are two very different fields.
mhm.
I have one of the biggest fields in my kingdom. I know I'm going to get a good mix of everything. But if I were to, I'm going to pick on Hugel because I don't think you guys have a whole lot. If I go to Hugel and Jace, I can probably get away with one or two spells because I don't expect to see a whole lot of monks and barbarians against me. I could be completely wrong. I haven't been to Darkwater in a long time, but you get the idea. Learn your field and master that field.
Yep. That's another thing to keep in mind as well. Like, um, having an opener and understanding what the opposing team is going to run is something that you'll pick up as you play. As a plague of monks and wizards. So then your answer is simple. Heat weapon is normally just on speed dial, ready to go. Because those monks will sit there, it's like, all right, sure. Let's see you wield a great weapon when that thing is heated. Or like
Heat
it's
weapon and bark
shatter,
skin. Just
bark
because
skin.
I have to say this when I'm talking about druid. Keep in mind, most of my stuff is going to come from a perspective of druid. But heat weapon and bark skin are 90% of the time on every spell list I put out. Bark skin's going to help me, or at least help my party, go up against that guy and fight him. The heat weapon is what I'm going to use to drop them while they're busy. They're going to be fighting them for the 5 seconds I need because I might be a little slower. But at the end of that time, I know that weapon's going to be useless, and now I can get in there with my dagger, my short, whatever I'm wielding, and take care of business.
Yep. And it's going to be one of those things that you're going to learn it as you go. The big thing that's going to end up happening as you play is that you're going to figure out just what spells roll off your tongue quicker. So, like if Icy Blast is something that you've got a lot of comfort on, then that's a good opener to keep, especially once you know the field. Like for instance, Barbarian heavy, or maybe like Warrior heavy, whatever it is you might need. It's get comfortable on something, learn your field, learn the game, and then at that point you can start figuring out what feels comfortable or more comfortable for you and organizing what feels comfortable into an effective opening list. So like let's say again, let's take it back to the original example here. You've got capture point game or king of the hill game, probably a good likelihood of some level of enchantments or whatever, or what have you, whether it be warder, healer, druid, etc., etc. You're walking onto that point, you're gonna wait before you enter or before you engage and ask for enchantments, because it's proper kings to do that. So it's like saying, all right, Lyle, enchantments. And then he'll state whatever magical nonsense he's been given. And I'm going to sit there and think, okay, what is my next course of action? If I hear Iron Skin, I can't heat weapon. Okay, cool. That takes the first one out of my speed dial spells. Let's say, for instance, he's got Golem. So that means he's cursed, so he's immune, or they're immune to death as is, if I remember correctly. And they're
Immune to
cursed,
death
so they're
and
immune to
cursed.
spirit. Yeah, and they're cursed, so they're immune to spirit. So that means no terror is going to work on that. And Lord knows what other nonsense he could have. But now that I know the ones that are relevant that have immunities on it, I know what my first answer is going to be. It's going to be nothing relevant. I'm going to dispel him, and then I'm going to do whatever the hell else I'm going to do to get off of that point. Now, mind you, that's jokingly, because the moment you hear all the crazy words on that spell sheet, like that Overlord meme, where he's just like stating buffs for like a good solid 2 or 3 minutes, you just hit him with the dispel, and then to quote Sir Watt, it's like coming up to somebody who's ready here in like full plate armor and pulling their pants down. Yes, sure, that's an absolute great way to do it. And given that dispel is available to every caster sans bard, it's not a bad answer.
And scouts.
And scouts, yep. It's one of those things that you want to look through, see what the opposing team is packing, seeing how much of a threat it might be for you, and then using that first speed dial spell that you have. Whether it be like a really problematic barbarian, if you can catch him trying to deal with one of your friends so he doesn't rage and charge you down, you icy blast him and then you lock him out from being able to defend himself, and then you get your guys on top of him and then you release trick him. But that's a different form of tech for a different form of lesson.
Mm-hmm.
The long and short of it.
Usage. That's in the lesson on effective usage and team combos.
Yeah. For those of y'all who are still getting into it and still trying to find your footing, it's work with what the field is asking you to, work with what the team ends up asking you to, which we'll get to in a later lesson, and also figure out what feels comfortable for you to cast. As you go, you'll start getting more comfortable with certain spells. So, like, for instance, for a long time, I felt really uncomfortable with Icy Blast. I was really uncomfortable with the Hold Person because I didn't really like them and I didn't really use them much. But, the more I got to using them on fields, the more comfortable I found it to be. And it's one of those things that play by doing. Park Day, and I'll say this with as much kindness as I can, Park Day is practice for Kingdom. Straight up. It is very rare that you will see somebody get a Paragon ship through only playing at Park, than some very, very exceptional circumstances otherwise. So one of those things that you're going to need to learn to do is practice with your parkmates, learn to get casts off under pressure with your parkmates. One thing that we will normally do is get a person at about 20 feet or like outside, a little bit outside of 20 feet, maybe 25, 30, and you start a cast on them and see if they can get onto you quicker. They don't have to have a weapon in their hand. They don't have to swing at you. Maybe they stop about 5 feet away just to kind of practice doing it under pressure.
Real quickly, because he mentioned something, and if any of you casters who are listening, you might have just picked up on it. He said, start casting at 30, which is true. You don't have to start casting within 20 feet. You can start casting within 30, 40, even 200 feet if you wanted. But
The
on those
cast.
spells, when you end that spell, they have to be qualified for it, which means if I started at 200 feet, I hope I cast an ambulance and my butt is running as fast as the Flash because I got to be within 20, maybe 50 feet before I finish my incantation.
Yep.
So
It,
understand that you guys can start that beforehand. There is one spell and only one spell in the game that actually counters that. I will say it merely for posterity's sake. It is coup de grace, which is the only spell. It is part of the incantations, the ruling of itself that states it will do it as part of the beginning. So when you first call them out. And that's solely because they can get a heal and now they're no longer allowed. So coup de grace is the one exception to the rule.
Uber also
Additionally,
doesn't care about the state either.
true. Um, when you're practicing and trying to do what he said, which is again to practice for your kingdom game, practice for your inner kingdom, your spring wars or your end reigns that are going to be much more than just your regular park. I have a couple of suggestions that I do. These were very helpful for me. Went out on my field with what I call the joke builds, playing druid, going for my paragon. I went on my field with nothing but spell balls. I took a dagger. I took every entangle I could, every force bolt I could, and every ice ball I could, and those are the only spells I allowed myself to cast.
Mhm.
I did not do effective, but I did that for about 4 weeks. And in that process, in that time, I was practicing my spells. I was getting good at my spell balls. While I was not to my best effectiveness that I knew I would be better without, I was practicing skills that are relevant to my class. And I do recommend you do the same. Find
Mhm.
something that within your class that maybe you don't use a lot. Picking up on assassin. We mentioned coup de grace already. I will do it again. How many times do my assassins here actually use coup de grace? And
Yeah.
now there's a whole build that you can use in here. The ruffian, take throwies. Practice hitting them with the throwy and then coup de grace. Throwy, coup de grace. Throwy, coup de grace. That can keep you back at that 20 feet safety, and you're still able to pelt them and kill them off without getting too close. I do recommend it that you practice doing the same. Just a couple weeks of that's the only way you'll get a kill. Again, you're not going to do this at your kingdom games. You're not going to do this at the ones where you're trying to make yourself known. You're doing this at your local park. Even if that park is like, if your park is falling fire and you've got 30 people on the field or shifting tides, who I think is what, 26?
Yep.
Uh, or Darkwater, who I don't know, guys. Again, I'm sorry, but you guys are here, so I'm going to pick on you. What, 5, 10 people tops?
Well, I thought they were like decently big. Things like what, like their fields like 15, 16,
I don't know. Can one of my Darkwater people chime in for me?
15.
15. Okay. Okay, so
That's a good
15, but
number.
that's still a big difference between the 30 that we mentioned and 15. Or if you go to Sunset Hollow where there's only 6 people in that park, there's going to be 3v3. It's a very big difference between each of those. And what you're going to practice and try is going to change on that. But doing those joke builds, those joke plays, are going to help you learn again that muscle memory that you're going to need to Paragon and be a master of your class.
Hmm. It's going to be something it's gonna suck for a little bit. You're going to sit out there and you're going to think, Jesus Christ, I'm not doing anything. I don't feel like I'm actually being relevant. I promise you, it pays off. Just And the best part is that sometimes you don't even have to do some of these things by yourself. So the cool thing is that with coup de grace is that it doesn't matter if you injured them or not. You could just use it on somebody else. Like wait for one of your allies to hit somebody with like an arrow or a force bolt, and then you coup de grace them. Just practice getting into like the rhythm of it. For like wizard players, get in the rhythm of casting Dispel, especially for like how often things like AA come out, or Pro Mag, or Imbue Shield. Ooh, I think I just killed myself. Oh, never mind, I didn't. No, I did. But the idea here is that you want to be focusing on being able to get these complex spells off at a moment's notice and be able to do so under pressure. However you want to train that, it's up to you. The ones that me and Lyle have stated here are real fun because they tend to let you learn by playing, which is the arguably the best way for retention of information. It's, you know, experiment, get a feel for the spells. I know there's plenty of people who used to do this with Battle Mage back in the day to learn Ravage, because Ravage's intent used to be absolutely horrible. Is that they would do just the wounding Ravage build, and everyone would look at you like you were a crazy person. But now Ravage is easier, and now it's an easier cast. So like it, and those people who've been practicing it feel better. Wizard players do this all the time when they try to learn like what is it, Shatter, Icy Blast Shatter builds, or is it Hold Person Drag Below or Entangle Drag Below? The
And then Ravage
usual,
wounding.
Lavage Wounding. They don't normally have a means to do the what is it called, the
Kill combo, wombo combos.
no, the ones for insubstantial, because I know D-Rift,
Oh,
but yeah,
they
you
g-
can't
yeah.
really. I've never seen somebody D-Rift someone like in to do it themselves to force them into an insubstantial state. Yeah, astral intervention, then drift them and D-Rift. I've never seen that happen. I know some
And
people swear by it, and I will honestly like laugh. I will probably pee myself laughing hearing it happen. But like,
when I was trying to go for wizard, that was the combo I was using. It's
you're,
also a lower level combo, so it's actually really helpful as you're trying to get better at casting. Because that out of all of those spells for the astral and dimensional rift are what, 1 and 3, I believe. I
yeah, I
want to
believe
look, but
so.
or maybe it's 1 and 2. Like I think it's the lowest level wombo combo that a wizard can do. Um, but I want to throw a couple things out to what I'm seeing in chat here. First off, to Jay, yes, a build where you just take nothing but shoves
Yep.
is a joke build, but it's also a rather effective build, surprisingly enough, for especially for Bard. It is a very annoying build for other players to have to deal with because they can't stand still. Um, but
20,
it's
20
also
shoves is a build, and it'll do shit. You'll definitely make somebody angry. But
mhm,
the cool thing is that 20 shoves build or 15 shoves build trains you to have the 8 stuns or the 6 stuns and whatever other nonsense is coming to your mind at that point. Yeah, it's
take
shoved like it's it's feeling comfortable, and it's like, how many shoves can I get across on somebody? Can I effectively like shove someone off a cliff? Which some people get good at. Like they're it's effective. It's I'm not gonna lie to you, it's funny as hell, and it actually works.
so
Just keep practicing till it feels comfortable. Second nature almost.
when you are building your spell lists, have a plan in mind. Um, a wizard, for those of you who don't know, has the widest range of spells in this game
Mm-hmm.
uh, for verbals. Um, they have, as all casters, 2 pages, right? I'm not going to go do it on the stream. I'm just going to show it here on my camera. But out of these, they actually have the most verbal and spell balls, and they have the most range. I say quotations. Does that mean that you should have your astral intervention, dimensional rift, shatter, icy blast, wounding, ravage, dispel magic, and shove on there? No, that would be a dumb build. Why? It's too spread out. It's just too spread out. The When you're making your builds, keep them simple. If it is if it only is able to be done with you taking nothing but shoves and a short sword, that's no longer a joke build. That's your power build,
Yep.
because that's the build you're most comfortable with. But focus your spells down. Me, when I'm taking something like that, I have my plan. Well, how am I going to quote unquote kill my enemy? Am I going to do the astral intervention and dimensional rift? Am I going to stop them and drag them below? Or am I going to do icy blast shatter? Me personally, it's going to be icy blast shatter. But for Hugel, maybe he can't do that. Maybe the shatter spell and the icy blast don't flow for him. That's okay. Make sure, though, that when you are making your spell list, you're making one that works for you and is focused. You don't want to have to think of, oh, I casted that dimensional rift already, and then I have a shatter left, and the barbarian just slapped you, right? You want to be able to go barbarian, pop, monk, pop, warrior, pop.
Yep.
That's how quickly you want to be making that decision. Sir Ballas sent me this video a long time ago, and I'll actually see if I can't find it before we're done and post a link, um, of the various levels of competency and how it works and how fast of a difference it is when you don't even have to think and it's a reflex. Just like the doctor hitting your knee with the hammer to see that leg pop up. It's the
Mhm.
same level of reflex that you can build and train into yourself. Again, I'm going to rely upon the military. That's the same level of training military uses to teach their soldiers how to fight and kill in real life. They drill it so much that that they don't even have to look half the time to be able to do what they're trying to do. Now they should still look, but that's a whole nother argument. Uh, But back to the point, make sure that you're learning to be able to utilize the reflex competency of it. The more thought you have, the slower your reaction is. There was movie a long time ago that had Gerard Butler. I think it was called Gamer,
Oh
um,
boy, yeah.
where this kid played a VR game that allowed him to control Gerard Butler, who was a prisoner. At one point in time, there's a lot of conversation about the ping and the strings that were attached, because as the kid did his movements to protect himself and survive, Gerard Butler's character had to wait on those reactions. So there was additional reaction from the kid, his competency, and then it had to go through the computer system into um, Gerard Butler's character. And then eventually, the big scary thing you learn is a guy who comes out singing, "I got no strings on me," which is also Terry Crews, and obviously a very scary thing if you ever seen that man. Now, if I can find that video. While I do this, Sid, you want to continue for me?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. The big thing that we kind of want to get through is that it's about making this stuff feel like second nature to you, because the moment that something like that feels like second nature, and you don't have to like worry about it, it's like, all right, cool, I can hit you with a dispel the moment I see you in your engagement rage and you start espousing off your nonsense. Sure. This is what we are trying to get you guys to get to the point of when like the mindset to have. It's feel comfortable in what you're casting, know the proper bullet for the proper situation. Some things work better for other situations, some things are absolutely required for certain situations. And it's about learning what tool or what bullet does the right job. So once you figure out and the best way to do this is by experimenting. It's like, all right, try your builds, try different ways to cast certain things. Like, figure out what new mnemonic can I use to cast this spell that will make me feel more comfortable while I'm casting it. And the moment that you've got that down pat, most of this kind of evens out. That is the skill, that is the ostensible skill floor that casting has in this game. Once you get past the, I feel comfortable being able to cast just about anything in this game with any relevant amount of speed, everything else in this game kind of comes second nature, at least on the casting side. We can work on the whole tactics thing, we can work on fighting, we can work on team coordination, but that idea of like getting past that initial barrier of entry of learning and being comfortable with spells is what separates your all right fighters who are just, they're going to do this just to have fun, have a good time, and people who are serious about battle gaming. So just keep it in mind. Feel comfortable in the way that you cast, and I think once you've got that down pat, you're going to see that your entire perspective on the game is going to change, as well as your perspective on, or not even your perspective, your mentality on how you play the game is going to change. So, I mean, I think that we've kind of beaten this position a little bit to death, at least in the sense of trying to get, or at least in trying to explain it. One last
but
thing.
it's also very important.
That's true. I think the big thing that we want to also probably hit soon before following up question, knowing who and when to use your spells on is super important. When it comes to spells that are per life, I'm glad to spam them on first opportunity to use it on someone who needs to be dealt with, i.e. shove. How do you approach the per refresh / harder to charge spells, and when to use them and when it is worth saving them?
For me
So that's
personally,
take it first, Baker.
for me personally, when it comes to that effect, that depends upon the game. Um, I'm going to continue to use what we have been using, which is this uh, King of the Hill game. If I know that somebody's been up there for about a minute and a half, they're probably going to win that game, and I need to get them off of there as quickly as possible. And if that's the case,
Oh.
you will hear me for the one and only time I'll ever do it. Drop a Call Lightning. Again, Druid. I don't like using that spell. I don't like per refresh because I cannot count on them over and over. They are my trump cards. They are the joker in my hand when I'm playing my poker game, right? I don't use them willy-nilly. I use them on what's most effective. If it's taking away the point, or buying me that time I need for my team to get respond, maybe I will use them then. If it's something it's going to have the most bang for buck at the time that I see it, I will do it. But I very rarely take a per refresh spell. I say that, of course, I take a lot of enchantments, but that's a different story. That's an entirely different conversation as to when to use enchantments. But for verbals, it really is going to come down to it. If it's just a mutual annihilation, and for whatever reason I have it, maybe I'm doing one of my joke builds, well, then I'm going to use them first. If it's a joke build where I'm not trying, I'm just going to use them. The idea in most of that is to just use your spells, right? That you could have the greatest gaming computer in the world, but if you've never played a video game on it, what's the point?
That's the same reason I don't take Finger of Death.
Yep. By the way, for those who are going to watch the recording, the person who just hopped in is actually also a very prominent battle gamer in this kingdom. Goes by the name of Rook. A lot of wizard play. His paladin's also real fucking good. Yeah, the thing we're getting on right now, Rook, is that we're trying to answer a question that was brought up on the difference between wanting to use or when to use per lives to per refresh spells. So, in this situation here, here's the way I look at it. I come from a background of games like Counter-Strike, League, Dota, etc. So those games kind of instilled that mentality into you intrinsically. I learned that utility and utility can mean anything from a stun to a call lightning to a finger of death, etc. And those have to be expended only when I can make a substantial gain off of that expenditure. If that call lightning isn't used to either one, win a round, two, lead to me winning that round immediately, or three, make or save that game, there's no reason for me to be using it. It would be a waste otherwise. It doesn't give me any sort of real tactical advantage. And in some situations, it's going to be useless because that healer who's going to come running up and waddle his happy ass in there is just going to resurrect them anyway. Making your big ticket spell useless in the grand scheme of things. So one of those things that you need to learn is that per refresh spells, and this isn't just like a finger of death, call lightning, etc., etc. This can apply to dispel. When should I want to use a dispel over when not to? Traditionally, dispel has a few more caveats because all the casters that can use it have it to be chargeable. I believe druids have it that it's chargeable. Wizard have it or has it that druid doesn't have chargeable dispel. True, they don't, but they have naturalized magic. Yeah, they have to experience it.
Yeah, we have naturalized, and we could always experience it, but it is not a standard
Yeah, it's not standard.
charge. Now, I will say this, 'cause since we are specifically talking about dispel magic, that one is probably the one that you are going to use often and early and quickly. The reason why is it destroys enchantments. So if you come out onto that field and you see somebody who's looks like they're flying 30 flags on their chest of various colors, you're probably going to want to go ahead and hit them with that dispel because all that just became useless, right? If you see them come out with a single white strip, more like, depending again what your field is, that's probably not something you really want to waste it on. So there is that point of dispelling the big bang for the buck. Um, don't waste it on a bark skin that's useless. But if you got a guy who's essence graft and a golem and lycanthropy and a bee weapon, so you know he's going to be a straight danger with 2 points of armor and immune to death and flame and killing everybody in one hit. Let's be real. We don't really want to hold that dispel magic. We want to go ahead and just throw it away. Just there you go, gone. Go move it on to the next one because that's a huge shift of power. You know, that's like taking out a queen in an early game of chess.
Yep. Because keep in mind, when
Taking out a
you're
rook.
extending
Wink, wink.
An early game rook.
that's also the interesting thing. The thing that you want to really, really keep in mind in all this is that what you're expending, your dispel magic in this case, is compared to the E-Graft, Golem, blank, 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 insert whatever nonsense Golem stack they've decided to create that time. They'll have their own nonsense, and you're going to sit there and say, okay, cool, I just 3-for-1 them or 4-for-1 them. What do they do?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing you want to keep in mind as you're like learning that. What's up?
Yeah, I like Lyle's description of the like taking the queen off the board, for obvious reasons. But when you think of the game as like
the
material advantage, they're like, let's say you have a team, right? 3v3, right? Enemy team has a wizard, a 6-point warrior, and an assassin, like, and I have a choice of what to use my per refresh on to take someone out of that fight. I'm gonna use it on the warrior. Like 9 times out of 10, like that's the biggest threat on the field. Like, yeah, like the wizard can be a threat, but he can also be neutralized by more on my team and not specifically me. Like I could have, a scout with a small shield and a short sword go take out that wizard just as well as anyone else on the team can. So like I'm not as threatened by the wizard because that's an easy pick. Assassin, same thing. Maybe they're going Florentine, maybe they're long weapon. I could just outrange them. I'm wizard. I could use a per life. I could use an easy hold person on them, and all right, you're out of the fight. Like this is something easy. But
Really, Rook. Next time I see you at a battlefield with my bow as I'm playing assassin, we're gonna see who outranges each other. And remember where I always
Exactly.
hit you when I shoot my bow.
yeah, I'll be wearing my second shield. Don't worry.
But Rook brings
But
up a
again,
really
it's like, you know, like in this example, like what's causing the line to stay where it is? So we have assassins who they're going to flank, right? They're going to try to circle around, and as long as that anchor on their team, their tank is still alive, then there's nothing we can do, right? We're out of the fight. That's why every time, you hear it, if you want to not play the game, some people say like, oh, you should play a healer so you can sit in your chair and you can heal people without having to, exhaust yourself. I would argue if you really want to play a class where you don't actually have to do that much, you can play a 6-point warrior because the enemy team's just going to focus you with ice balls and icy blast. And then you could just kind of like hang out, sit down, right? People want to take you out of the fight.
6-point armor is way too much.
100% it's too much. Yeah, it's like a total stomp. But again, like that means now you have to focus that person with things like pyrotechnics, right? Pyrotechnics 50-foot range, I destroy all your equipment. Even if you have all that armor, you're still effectively out of the fight, right? We're talking about wizard kill combos. You have icy blast, shatter. I was experienced shatter because now I get to I pick one shatter and I take like 5 icy blasts, and then I can freeze as many people as I need to, and then if I want to kill them, great, I can shatter, steal life, and I get my my shatter back. That's keeping that frequency up. Like personally, I think Wizard as a class, like you need high frequency. I try to avoid the refresh abilities as much as possible. But
Again, it comes down to
yeah,
figuring out the biggest bang for your buck. I'm
yeah.
going to actually go against Rook here a little bit. So, he talked about an
Hmm.
assassin and a wizard and a 6-point warrior. Well, maybe that 6-point warrior, while they have a lot of armor, you might have an icy blast in hand, and they're out of the fight for 60 seconds, right?
Hmm.
So now you can pop that refresh onto that wizard who's probably trying to finger of death you at the same time. There is that point where you do need to kind of understand your fighters of the other team as you start to figure them out. One thing I do, and it's why I mention a lot of chess when when I'm talking about strategy, is I try to throw a number on somebody, an arbitrary number in my head as to how many points they would be worth to me if I got them. The reason I say this about chess, for those that may not know this, every point figure on that board is worth points. A pawn is worth 1. A bishop is worth 3. A queen is worth 9 points. It takes 9 pawns to equal the effectiveness of a single queen, and obviously that queen is still stronger than all of the pawns combined, unless they somehow got across the map. But you still need to be prepared for the understanding how that works. You know, uh, if you are going to say, well, that wizard is a 5-point, but the warrior is a 9-point, then obviously I need to take out that warrior. And maybe that assassin's just a single one, and if he comes into a spot where I can kill him real quick, cool. I'll just pop over and get my free pawn. But maybe I do need to focus on my rook.
I would say because that I'm going to be honest with you, that's a whole episode unto itself that I think we'll probably have to do.
I
Target
agree.
priority, just because it's there is a lot that goes into picking targets because not all classes are created equally, much like how all players playing a class are not created equally. Me on a warrior or me on paladin is not the same thing as like rook, ballast, bolt, chop, etc., 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 or anybody else with any relevant amounts of stick skill. But the thing that to keep in mind is, and I guess I want to use this to kind of like start closing down the episode, just because we've been at it for a little about an hour, give or take.
Just under an hour at this point. So
Just under an hour.
yeah. So I'm fine with us kind of bringing it down too. It's been
Yeah.
a lot of information thrown at people. I know Leo's going to shoot out a link for us when we're done for everybody. So I definitely make sure you guys come back and review, take notes. I can definitely speak for all of us that are in this. Reach out. We're obviously all in here talking all the time, but like, maybe you don't really want to throw out this question in front of everybody. It's cool. My DMs are open. I know Sid's are too.
Yep.
Yeah, same here.
So I guess since we are in the process of rounding down, let's go ahead and any last questions about the things you guys have heard that are in here that you want to pick up on? Anything that we can touch on real quick before we cut it off for the night? Ask now while it's fresh, because it's the only way you're going to be able to, get your best answer from us. We might have to back up in our brains, and some of us, it's really hard to do that. I can't shift.
Mm-hmm.
You can also come off mic.
Yeah, I mean, I expect people to speak. This is not like trust. This isn't like a hard and fast podcast kind of deal. Everyone should be able to like kind of talk, express
Is
their
this
like.
streaming somewhere other than Discord?
It'll be on
Leo's
YouTube.
recording it. Yeah, Leo's recording it for
Oh,
YouTube.
okay.
I don't know if it's going to go through
I bet I could
soccer or if it'll be something else.
All right. Well, I think we've hit everything today that we wanted to, and a little bit more. So I do appreciate everybody coming to join us today. And we are planning on doing these more. We have talked about doing a handful of these. So one of the things we're going to be trying to do is ask you guys, what do you want to learn more about? Do you want me to go into threat evaluation next week, or do you want to learn about drafting at the
Yep.
start of a game? Actually, we're talking about doing it next Thursday, Leo, just so you know. Ooh, I can't do it next Thursday. My mom's in town.
We'll
How about
figure out a
we'll
date.
yeah, we'll skip. How about we just skip next week? I've got enough going on. But to be
Lord forbid, a
determined.
guy might be getting knighted or something. Damn.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Someone's getting knighted?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, apparently.
News to me.
Was it news to you? It's almost like we've been
No.
talking. It's been on the Kingdom page for like what, like the past like 2
Of
months,
course
3
it's
months.
not.
Oh, fair
No,
enough.
I'm just teasing.
Well, expect actually we'll probably be getting a few more guys on who also come from different backgrounds for this. Rook, I would love to have you on to kind of talk about this, because your input is actually really novel, and I really like the way you kind of talk about battle games and break it down. I'm gonna see if maybe we could get some of the others as well to kind of really like give a holistic understanding of how this kind of game works, because do not take our words
Yeah,
as
just
gospel. This game is completely open. The world is your oyster. Next class will be Sir Lyle Rachir. Agreed.
just let me know when the next one is, and I'll make myself available.
Absolutely, Rook. All right, ladies and gents, I want to say thank you guys so much for coming out, for coming to listen. For those of you guys watching this, wherever this gets posted, we hope that we were a good way to pass the time. We hope that the information here was, helpful, and that we weren't just yapping for about an hour for no reason. I don't think so, but to each their own. I'd like to thank the guys for coming out, and we will see you all next time.
Actually, one more thing.
Oh,
Out of battle, I pause to rest,
I
to
swear to
take this
God.
time to catch my breath.
Somebody
That's
Return to
hilarious.
me my fleeting power to aid me in my darkest hour.
And
Learn it,
then
live it, love it. Deuces.
absolutely.